So we're going to look at your perspective. We'll get to the one where you did just the room and what we were practicing for the furnishings. I'll get to that as the second part. And I did put some examples over there on the marker board of kind of how we plotted it out. So that one on the top, that's what I want to get to show you now about plotting your windows and how that would look. So for example, that would be the north wall. I can also show you if anybody's doing an east and west and you started, I could have you bring your grid over and I can plot it out. And so we did this afternoon, it worked out really well. The first place to get started is why am I picking a particular view? So according to our assignment, what are you basing your choice on for the view you're picking? What do you have to fulfill?
To show that it's 2 levels.
2 levels, yep, and the best parts about your design. So in this case, what I've done is I am showing this view of the north wall, and what I've done is I've done it on a copy of my furniture plan. And just like we did our small room with the grid, I want to show you the value in being able to plot that out and having it ready to go with the furnishings. I'll be able to show you that for the round as that was an angled object. But remember, that's also the videos in the module. So if you still need to figure out how to get that connected, then I'll show you about that to make sure you got it. You got it? Okay, good. All right. All right. You what? Oh, that was what it was? Okay, that's good. I can help
It
then.
wasn't open for me.
Oh, yeah.
So I went to her YouTube and.
Oh, okay, so Chrome, beautiful. All right, so what I've got is, if you notice here, let me do myself in pink here. Okay, so here I am. I'm standing, and I am standing 16 feet back from this north wall that I'm looking at. And that's how I based it, and I'm going to do the same thing if mine's going to look like that when we get done.
I thought it was 20.
You are going to pick whatever distance you want away from the wall that you're drawing.
Oh, so we have a choice. Okay.
You decide which one. I would say that it should be no less than like a 13,
Okay.
12, maybe, because you're going to set your MP at 14 if it's 12. But if you're any less than that, it's going to look like think about how close you are to that wall. How are you going to see that with, your peripheral goes sideways, but it also goes up, and you were trying to show the whole thing. And that's why. Yeah, so that's why I'm trying to show it this way. I'm always using this triangle to give you an idea kind of what your peripheral, it's just I can't do it this way because it's not, an elevation kind of
I
thing.
have a quick question. How is the north wall showing that it's 2 levels?
Because you're going 20 feet up. You're going as high as the ceiling is. You don't have to show the balcony.
That's what you mean by 2 levels.
Mm-hmm.
You just mean ceiling
Yeah.
height.
Oh, I thought I have to actually
Oh, I thought,
show
okay, I'm
I know,
glad
me
you asked
too,
that
for a
question.
second, but then, yeah.
In my case, this one is like a flat ceiling up above. But yeah, that's a way to think about it. Yeah, if you want to go that way, don't hesitate. You could do that because then you'll be showing your 20 foot.
My kitchen's in that area. That's what I wanted to show.
I did the south wall thinking that we had to include that second.
It's not a bad idea.
That's a lot of work.
Well, whatever. This one's going to be a little bit of work too. I'll show you. I am going to try to show you how to plot backwards this time a bit, and that one I was kind of planning more of a flat face, but we'll plot this out. So the idea is I'm 16 feet back, and so what that means is I have the 16 feet plus 2. So I'm going to establish my MP at 18 feet, right? We just add that extra 2 feet so that it helps with the distortion. And then last time we did it so that we did the VP over from the right side of the drawing. But because it's going to be easier for me and more open to work from my left, this time I'm going to use my MP over on this side. You can do it either way. I just had done it on the right side because it was closer to that wall. In this case, I've got all this business to work with, so I was going to take it over here. And you can see that I've drawn in the grid. I chose not to do it in the bedroom. There's no point. I'm not showing that.
Yeah, there's walls up.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
That's
Now,
what mine is, too.
I don't know exactly where my cone of vision is going to cut off once I start plotting it out, sort of takes a life of its own. And so you can see I still included it here just in case there's something that I need to plot if I start to see, and it's that way it's already in place and I can reference it, okay?
So how far did you go from the left in?
So with that one, I'm 16 feet over.
Okay.
And so I measured my my VP 16 feet over from that wall, which this is my north, and then this
That
would
would
be
be your
my
west, right?
east,
So you
and
would-
this would be my west,
So
yeah.
16 feet horizontally and vertically.
Yeah, I kept the same number. I didn't even mean to do that. It just ended up that way.
Okay.
Yep, so 16. In my case, I did 16 and I did 16. And then the next thing that I did was I pulled out from the VP from the four corners. I established all of my foot marks along my floor line, right? This was my floor line. This was my horizon line. And then the next thing that you would do is you would,
I'm sorry, that MP to the left is how many feet to the left from the west wall?
is how many feet I'm standing back from my back wall that I'm
Okay,
viewing.
so it's 16 feet.
And then to establish your MP, I'm directing you guys to always add 2 feet on.
Right.
So my MP in this case is 18 feet over from that side wall.
So you start 1, 2, 3, 4, 18.
16 or 8 from the sidewalk.
I'm standing 16, well, they're asking about the distance back, I think.
I was asking about the MP.
Yes, that's the distance back. Yep. And then I'm having you add 2 feet for the MP. I'm also standing 16 feet over from this west wall. And so then I plotted my VP to be 5 feet. I did a 5 feet,
5 feet up.
eye line, above the floor. And then I measured 16 feet over, just like I'm 16 feet over from that side wall.
I'm sorry, I don't think I've asked this clearly because I've heard two different answers. That MP point is 16 feet from the west wall over?
It's 18 because I add 2 feet.
So it's 18 feet over to the left and it's 18 feet back to get the cone of vision.
So
No.
you start like 1 and then to that.
So
line.
the first thing we establish is how far back do I want to stand, and
Right.
how far over from the wall do I want to stand.
Right.
And so to establish my MP, the first thing, I measure back how far I'm standing from this wall, and then come back.
And add 2.
Yeah. And so I measured my distance from here to be 18 feet over.
Okay.
And then I've got one coordinate, but I don't have my second coordinate. So now I know how far back I am, but I don't know how far over I am.
Okay.
And so at that point then I also identified that was 16 feet over to
That's your
me.
feet.
I just didn't draw the arrow all the way over. So then I measured 16 feet over, and that's where I'm standing. That's where my crosshairs are.
Okay.
Yep.
Got
Now
it.
to the MP, that was at 18, and I measured from the wall over to the MP, which I think I'm gonna pull that down a little bit more.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So I measured. I'll do this because it kind of got cut off. So here it is, and then it's 18 because we added 2 feet. Even though I'm standing 16, I added 2 feet
Yeah.
just in case for distortion.
Okay. And
Okay.
5 feet up because we determined that was the
Yeah. Yep. Now, when I set up the paper, one of the things I said I would talk about, because somebody asked about the size of the paper. If you take a look, this is like an 11 by 17. You can see I would run out pretty quickly of paper. And so I would say the 18 by 24 is your best bet. All right, so the next thing would be to establish your foot marks down along the floor line. And then what I did was I took my triangle and I took it through each of the foot marks here from the MP, and that's how you establish your marks along this side where your floor and your wall plane meet. So then the next thing we know from plotting out our grid is to go ahead and draw the first foot increment, the second, and we know that as we go across, the spacing should get bigger and bigger, right? If you're not seeing that that's getting bigger as it's coming closer to you, then you're gonna wanna make sure that you fix it now. Don't keep going, because it's just gonna get worse and worse.
Professor, when I was doing my grid, my lines were just very off, like they didn't line up when I was connecting them, like the ceiling to the wall.
It's because when you took your straight edge to the MP through this, it wasn't exact.
Okay.
Yep, that would be what was happening. And honestly, what happens is, quite frankly, what happens is you go to set it up on this, my dot's a little big, I want you to be able to see it, but try to get that as small as possible, because you don't want to be on this side of the dot or that side of the dot. That little bit changes it, so you go right through the middle. And you want to think about the weight of your medium, that it goes dead center through that. If it's a little bit off to the side, that's why, like, mine are kind of small because I can do it, but if you're just getting started, I would say you should be doing intersections like that so that you clearly see where you're going through the middle and where you're going through the middle, because that's where you're off, and that's what's most likely happening. Yeah. And then we'll come here. Now, is it going to be perfect? No, it's not always perfect, but at least gives you the structure to get started.
So you're creating the grid, and then you're going to draw the perspective drawing
On
by
top.
utilizing the grid underneath.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. You want to keep that guy safe. I'm going to roll that pencil as you come across so you keep your lead sharp as possible, especially when you're in this back area here and they're pretty tight. Okay, so now we have that, and then we come in and we do our vertical lines, right? So I'm going to use my bigger triangle, and let's just start with something like this. All right, so there's my first foot mark. And again, you want to make sure it's right where the intersection is of this line and this line. So a lot of times I'll just put my pencil there and then bring it down.
Yeah, I don't think I struggled with that. I think I just struggled with like, what they had to go through the VP, and yeah.
That one, you can still see the different colors that I set up as, so that might be something that's
Well,
helpful for you.
This you drew at 20 feet, right? That was the critical thing there because.
Yes, thank you for bringing
Yeah.
that up. Yes, so yeah, I was trying to, like, how much do I do ahead so I can get through everything? So let me
Yeah.
step back a second. So when we do this, and I'm doing this north wall, you want to set this up at 20 feet. Because what you'll do is you're going to plot it down at the 16, connect it however far over the 9 is, which is how far you measure over, and that's how you're going to come up with that. So let me go ahead. I'll just finish up this. I can just do two sides, and that'll give us an idea of what it needs to be.
I think that goes back to your point earlier when you were saying don't draw it at 16 and try to go up.
Correct.
It's easier to draw 20
Yes,
and come down.
yes, exactly. Thank you. Yes. Run through lead like crazy.
So when you draw the ceilings and them sloping down to 16, it's not gonna be exact. Like it's gonna be at an angle. Is what you're saying?
It's on the back wall, so it's exact.
Okay.
It is exact.
Okay.
All right, so here's the idea, right? You get it started, and then you would take plot out your points of your foot marks, right? And that's gonna give you your BP to that line, and again, bring it out.
How far should we be going?
I've now, because I did, and that's why I usually do my floor first, I know where it stopped. If you're closer, these are gonna be a lot further apart. So like if you're at the 13, 14, you could do something like that to get started. You can try that closer one and just see what it looks like. You never know.
Right. Okay.
So you'd work with all this, and then what you do is we're gonna go ahead and we'll get the ceiling, because some of this I'm just gonna gauge from the other side and then get the idea across here.
Well, also, are you 29 feet wide?
Okay, yeah, so let's talk about that. Thank you. All right, so on this one, when I set my grid on the back, I measured this and it was 29 and a half. So because I am going to even like plot back here and so forth, I chose to do it 30. So what I'll do is I'll work my way over to 29 and a half, and I'll just cut myself off at the 6-inch
Okay.
spot. So it's easier if you go bigger and reduce it out. The other thing is we've got 9-inch exterior walls. I need to talk to you a little bit about how you create that sill. So yeah, so I made it wider. And I'm gonna keep working from the west wall over, is how I'm gonna plan it. So even though my grid's 30, I only need 29.5. So I'll just work my way over and then plot it from there.
So this original grid was 30.
So this one, yep, so that
20
one's
feet high, 30
correct.
feet wide.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, exactly. So here's what we're gonna do then to plot the ceiling. Oops, thank you. So, Ms. But this is even trash paper, but it's hard to show it with vellum because it's a little cloudier, so I do that. But your marker paper is gonna be even more, yeah, it's not opaque, but you know, it's not as transparent. And so that's where I just might see what you want to do. If you find you can't see the lines through it, then I would go to a more translucent paper.
Can like render on the
And then render on the marker. Yep, yep. Okay, so if I'm looking at the back wall here, I'm gonna start out with this here. Now, I know that when I come forward here, it's basically 5 feet. I just know off the top of my head, but if I measured from here to here, that's 5 feet. So what I'm gonna do is, and it's gonna be, let's see, get the right scale. It is, yep, very good. I know people are spitting out numbers like nobody's business. You guys know this? Yeah.
I've only watched 45 videos.
Yes.
Measured it 5 times.
Right. So I gotta come in 6 inches, right? So I'm gonna measure 12 over from here for my wall. This
Takes
is
you to that first wall that's going north.
yeah. So
Okay.
so this is anything that is perpendicular to the back wall plane, which right now is this. You go back to the VP. Anything that's parallel to the back wall plane, you're using your bar.
Okay.
The trick is when a piece of furniture is at an angle or at a circle, how do you have to plot every single piece. You can't like plot this, no, it goes back and then carry the line, you know, and then bring it. It doesn't work the same. So with this one, I've identified that that's where the wall is over, and then it's gonna come out the 5 feet. So I'm gonna go from my VP and I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know it's gonna come out about here, but to know exactly what that line's gonna be, I'm going from the VP to the mark, which was that distance over, and then I'm gonna draw from the back wall, and that's the alcove right there. And then I have my wall for back there, and then that particular one is 9 feet tall, right? So in that section,
Yeah.
I didn't even do it on my own drawing. Mark me down. Okay. So we've got the dash line there. That's going to be 9 feet. So I draw it up, but I don't really know where to stop it, right?
Okay.
So what I can do is, if I had my grid, I could count 9 up, but I'm just going to measure it up here. So if you have 9, this is 9 feet off the ground. I'm going to take the VP and the 9 because, again, see, it's perpendicular to the back wall plane, that 90 degrees. So here's to the VP, here's to this, and I'm going to bring it out. And where this comes over and they meet, that's the end of the alcove. So here, I'm going to go up to here, and that's where, I don't have to check it here because it's parallel with the back wall plane. All I have to do is carry it up from here, and that's the alcove. That's that right there. Now I'll have to keep bringing it out with the rest of the wall.
Because that wall runs down the hallway.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I can go ahead and I could measure it and say, okay, from this back wall, in fact, actually, see why it's good I did a rounded number? 18 feet. So lucky me, I get to count, or I can come over here where it's a little bigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So it actually comes down to this line. I could use that same line because I'm going back to the VP because that's perpendicular to the back wall plane. So I would just bring that out. And in fact, that's where the wall actually goes on this corner. How tall that is, all I have to do is take the VP. I can go back to what I established here. I could go back to the back wall plane and I could go 9 up. I could go 9 here. You can plot it in a lot of different places. So if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I would come 9. So you have to go a little taller. Yeah, see how it lines up nicely with that one? I just needed to make my line a little bit taller. So let's see, that's the back, but this is the front. So this is the point that we see it start to go up. Okay, so now what we have is, it's a matter of just creating this wall here. This one right here, now I'm gonna draw that. Yep, and now it's just a matter of my bar, and I bring it across like that. And I go until I hit that there.
Outside edge of where it's.
Yep, because that's the inside of our structure. That's gonna go up. I'll get to the 16 in just a minute, but that's gonna go up. Let's just stay within the 20 for right now, because that's our tallest part there. So now I just bring the line over here. Oh, actually I gotta go all the way over, don't I? Okay, so now I go up there, this comes up here. So even doing this, see, I'm not even exact on that one myself. Okay, so now I just plotted as if this entire wall was 20 feet high.
Yeah,
And I went over here because that's still there.
because this part is 20 feet high.
This
Well, 16 and
midsection,
20,
yep.
yeah.
Now, with my dash line, it comes in 9 feet this side and 9 feet this side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do 9 feet. I'm gonna go to my back wall plane. And then I can count 9 boxes, or I can just measure it. I think measuring is faster, so I do that. There is 9 feet over from that wall is this. I'm gonna go up to here, up to that 20-foot mark. That's the point that the ceiling slopes down.
Yeah.
So I've got 20 feet there. Now I have to identify on this side where it's only 16, I have to go 16 feet up.
Yeah.
I can't measure it. I can only use this. Now, if I know this is 20, I can go down 4 boxes, right?
Yeah.
That could be a faster way to do it. So I'm gonna do it that way. So now I'm gonna go the VP because that is perpendicular to the back wall. So I got VP and I'm at this 16 feet, okay? But now I've got something that has nothing to do with the VP. It's not
Right.
perpendicular, it's not parallel. So let's see, actually, I gotta come out. Oh, that's what I was doing, okay. So it's 16 feet back there. So now I'm gonna mark it on this wall. What's 16 feet off the floor in this corner? This is this spot at 20. This is the spot at 16. So that all I do is take the 20 foot and the 16. And that's how you have an angled
Erase
ceiling. I'll erase it so you can see it.
All right.
Ooh, okay.
Now, what do you do to make it look three-dimensional? Then what you do is you take your VP, you go to this mark here, and you come out. You take the VP, you go to your 20 foot,
And you make that.
and you come out.
Okay, got it. Because I wondered how you get this part of the ceiling. Right? You're doing this part.
Yep, it's exactly. Yep, that's exactly what I'm doing. So now,
You sure you don't want to come home for the weekend?
now here, it's fun. Let's have a drawing. Okay.
We're going to Chicago. We're going to see a play.
Now, even
She's
though
10, but
even though this is dash line, but I don't see it because I have a flat ceiling. So I still have to anticipate it's there. I know this was 9 feet over.
Yeah.
At this point it's 20, then it goes down to 16. So I'm gonna measure, I've got 9 feet over, so let's do the same thing. Let's go to the back wall plane.
Can you use your bar? Or
Yep,
no?
you
Would it be
could, yep.
skewed?
No, let's do it. So now, you can share the line there,
Yeah.
or you could do what I did on the other side.
Okay.
But that's parallel
I thought
to
I
the back
cheated.
wall plane. Nope, that's the smart way to do it. Now, I've got to come over 9 feet.
Okay.
I'm sharing this line, but where that is away from that wall, I do have to mark that. And so we know that it's 9 feet again. So if we've got, I'm going to go back
9
to the
feet
wall
from
plane.
This wall in 9?
It's 9 feet right here. So the dash line is 9 feet in from the east wall.
Oh yeah. So
now
that's
I'm
this
working
wall,
my
right? Isn't this wall the east wall?
this whole wall is the east wall.
Oh.
Let me get rid of this one. Well, actually, that's the overhang. But
I was gonna count 9.
well,
from
let me
here.
finish. Let me finish drawing it. I'll show you. Okay, so here is where that wall stops for that room. So let me see where that hits. Let me finish up that wall there. So that one is going to go till you hit it. You'll share it, and you bring it up. Okay, so that's that wall there, and then this disappears. But I want to show you how I plotted it out.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's go to that distance. So we're going to use the same thing. This plane is still, it's the same plane. Just imagine it coming all the way over. So I'm measuring 9 feet over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I just do the same thing. I do the VP to that, oh, sorry. Oh yeah, there, yeah. And then bring it up here, and then you just carry it all the way up. So that's your 20, and then to get your angle, you go back to that 16, because that's on the same plane, and you come up like that, and then this goes away. And then you're gonna take your VP, your mark here, and that comes towards you. And now you have your ceiling.
Cool. Awesome sauce.
Oh boy.
You lost me
posting
at
the
this.
video.
You lost me there. I had to plot back, so when I set up my back wall plane, it was this right back here.
Oh.
It was back here. Because I had to project it forward. So rather than making my grid all the way across here and then trying to figure out something, I'm gonna
Where to
bump it
figure out
back.
to go back. Yeah.
I did my whole back wall plane here and then
came
did
in.
a little jog to figure out 5 feet in and then plotted this out 5 feet in,
That's
and
what
that
she
was
did
the
first
line
here.
for the.
So this is 5, you did 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I
Okay.
came 5 feet from that back wall. Yep. And then here is the mark of the floor line, and it just picks up at that distance there.
I'll just rewatch
All right. So now we have, I think you can see
You have
the
an extra
view.
week.
Right. Okay. And then for the rest here, so let's talk about the window. So for the window, I happen to have it in my title block, right? So that's it on the title block. And it says that if I'm looking at this window, it has a 7-foot sill height and a 10-foot opening, right? So we are on this back wall, which is right here. I need to figure out where to start drawing it, how far over from this corner. So when you measure, it says that it's 8.5. You could do 8.5, you could do 9. I'll just try to be as exact as I can. So I'll do 8 feet. It's like 8 feet 8, but I'll do 8 feet 6. That's fine. You can be within a couple inches. So if we do 8.5 feet over, I still have to go back to my original wall plane because I don't have that there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and some 6 inches. So what I'm gonna do is I know how far over it is. I have to start marking how far up it is off the floor. So we've got, let's just say 8.5. Okay, so there is the VP, and it comes to here and intersects. So right here is the distance on this wall. I know how far over. Now what I have to do is I'm gonna carry my line up, just take a guesstimate here, it's 7 feet up off the floor, but I can't take a scale and measure it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my back wall plane. I'm gonna identify 7 feet up. So if I go back to my mark there, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here, that's 7 feet off the ground. I go from my VP, go through the mark there, and that's the bottom of the windowsill. That's
Okay.
this corner.
See what I'm at.
Yep. And then it's gonna be how wide is it?
7 feet.
Yeah, right on there. Okay, so now let's do 7 feet back there because I can at least measure it on the back wall plane,
Flat,
right?
yeah.
So that's good. That helps it be a little bit more expedient. So now I've got 7 feet there. I know that then that's this here. I'm gonna come through here. I identify where it is on the wall. We'll carry that same idea up. Now because it's parallel with the wall, all I need to do is take my 7 foot mark off the floor and I can establish the bottom of my sill. That's the sill. Now the window itself, what does it say in the title block? It says that it is 10, I keep rolling, don't I? 10 feet off the ground? Yeah, 10 feet for the opening height. So now I have to determine what's 10 feet. So if I identified 7 here, 8, 9, and 10, no, 10 feet
feet
above
up
there.
from the
Okay,
sill.
oops, okay, so measure. Okay. So I'm going back to the back wall plane for what I'm measuring, and I'm gonna go in the right scale. And then I'm gonna go to 10 feet up here. So that's the top of my window, but I have to get it onto this plane here. So there's my mark. Let's make sure I'm in the right location. Yep, I am. There's the mark there. I'm gonna go through my VP to that mark, bring it to that plane, and where these two intersect, that's where I know that that's the full height of my window. I'm gonna frame it rectangular for just a second, okay? So here's the top. Okay, make that relatively light. And here was the side of that window. But we know that the shape is not that, it's that. Now, I'm gonna use, this worked pretty well for me this afternoon. I just used like a rounded, you can also do a flexible, I don't know if you've seen that, you can do a flexible curve. This you can manipulate to whatever you want. But what I'm gonna do is,
Amazon and they're at Plex.
yes, and I know, okay, so I know that it is 10 feet. I'm gonna just come down 3 feet for my arch. Let's just try 3 feet.
I think you had it marked on the,
2?
the plan you gave us.
Is it
had
2?
the 2
2.
feet,
Okay, there we
yeah.
go. 2 it is. So now I've got 8 feet, let's say. So I'm gonna do the 8. Make sure it's lined up here.
I got that. I thought it was the French curve when I first started.
So here's your VP, your mark, and that's how I know that that's the 8 foot, and then you got 2 foot there. Now I don't have to re-measure it or go back to the wall plane on there, because all I need to do is just share my bar, bring it over, and then what I would say is identify your halfway point. So we'll do 3.5 on that back wall plane. Because what you think is in the middle may not be that. You're looking at it slightly different, see? So it's not gonna, you're distorting it, so you've got to plot that out. I was a little bit over on that one, so I was more in the middle. But like here, I would do something like this, and then have it so that it goes kind of along those lines.
Perfect.
Then what you'll do is you have to identify, what am I gonna see? So for the thickness of it, you can go and estimate like another foot back. I always just identify, like if I know that that's a foot, I'll find my next foot behind that line, and then I'll take a little bit less because we just have 9-inch walls. But what we do is, if this is your spot here, that means that this was this corner here. Now to figure out what the inside corner of it, oops, wait, this one. Oh, because we have that, I have to go through, oh boy, yeah, I gotta do all that, darn it, okay. Actually, in fact, that's what I've got. It's a little bit too far off in the center because I didn't do that. So here is the middle, there we go, that's why it should, I wondered, I thought, well, it should look a little off, there we go, now that's better. yeah, that should have gone in the middle. Okay, got it now. Not that dramatically different. I had to bring it out to that wall plane and I didn't. Okay, so now we've got that window. And then what you would do is figure out what the depth of it is, and then you could bring it up. So in this case though, we're projected forward. So that's actually kind of nice. I can use my floor plane. So I'll identify that this is about 9 inches, and that's how I'll know to do the inside of it. Yeah, so I don't have to go beyond it because that wall is sitting on this one.
Okay.
It was different on that other one. And then what you can do is you can identify the same here, and then you can bring it here, yep, and then go back. It should be the same, right? You get to share it, but just make sure that it's not gonna look a little different. Now this one, oh, look, I discovered
you
it
see
actually
it.